We are back with another episode of the Between the Hashes podcast here on the 515 Podcast Network. This episode, we're going to be previewing the AFC South for the 2026 NFL season. But
Woo!
yeah, here we go, Brock. But as always, joined by Braden Bank and Brock Bierman and myself, Dawson
Brock Bierman,
Livingston.
thanks.
Block Bierman.
Bye,
Block
Batman.
but you can tell if you've seen the AFC East episode. We're not being lazy. We don't wear the same clothes every single day. This is a double recording for us, so just
I'm actually a cartoon character. This is just my outfit now.
This is just Braden's persona. But as always, we start off every episode by asking the fellas how they're doing. Guys, how are we doing on this lovely Wednesday evening?
Chilling, man. I get to talk about NFL again on a fairly regular basis. I'm pretty stoked about that. Unfortunately, that means I have to talk about this godforsaken division.
Brock?
Doing all right.
Brock said
Nothing to complain about.
this was the division he was most excited about, that he had the most stuff prepared.
No.
This division takes more than an hour.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Bach Bierman is excited.
Bach Bierman always excited. But we are going to start off with the team that finished in fourth place in the AFC South. That is the beloved Tennessee Titans. The Titans made a few moves in the offseason. Hey,
Somebody
survived.
loves them.
Yeah. Now, have I met a Titans fan in my life? No. But it's not that they don't exist. But
Are we sure?
I don't know. But some of the key moves they made in the offseason, they signed wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson from the New York Giants. They signed corner Alontae Taylor from the New Orleans Saints. They signed defensive end John Franklin Myers from the Denver Broncos. They traded for defensive end Jermaine Johnson from the New York Jets. And with their first round selection, they selected wide receiver Carnell Tate out of Ohio State, and being the first receiver off the board. Also made several other moves this offseason. They extended Jeffrey Simmons on a 3-year, $106 million deal as well. They signed Mitchell Trubisky, which is always fun. They had hookers on the team, so that's always cool. But they made several additions to try to bolster this team roster. They have a new head coach for this upcoming season. Guys, this team finished 3-14 last year, worst record in the AFC South. The question I have for you guys, is Cam Ward ready to lead Tennessee into a new era?
I think so. We saw flashes last year of what Cam Ward could be if he actually got a team around him. I think he's got a team around him, man. I mean, running back room, Tony Pollard has his moments. Nick Singleton is actually somebody I'm pretty excited to see, like, get somewhat consistent snaps if that's possible. Receiver room looks a lot better with Wan'Dale Robinson and Calvin Ridley, Carnell Tate. I mean, Shimry DK looked pretty good last year. Aya Manor had like a couple moments that were kind of cool. Gunnar Helm looks like he has potential. Offensive line doesn't necessarily look like the greatest, but it doesn't look the worst. The defense exists. It's a work in progress, but it could get better. Bob Saleh knows how to get the dogs barking. This will be an improvement from last year. Not that that's exactly saying much, but I don't think they'll be fighting for like top 4 pick like they were last year.
Yeah, kick off your draft with getting potentially the best receiver in what I think might actually be a really good receiving class. Of course, you got to have like other assets around. You can't just have Cam Ward just throw into Carnell Tate 100% of the time. But I mean, they made efforts, and I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson will be able to contribute to this team. I think that this team is in a development year where I think that they are playing with house money. I don't think that there can really be a failure this year unless they like finish with 2 or 1 win. Because not many people are talking about them, and that's kind of good when you got a new kind of coach. I mean, Robert Saleh's coached before as a head coach in the NFL, and had success over in San Francisco. 2 separate stints, if I remember correctly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you got a quarterback who has shown some flashes. This might actually be one of the few examples where I think maybe having a defensive-minded coach might benefit the young quarterback because, yeah, you got a good quarterback paired up with a very young, high potential receiver, and then now you also have a head coach who is a very defensive-minded guy, and if you guys can at least have a okay defense, I think you're gonna be in a lot of games this year. This could be one of those teams where they lose a lot, but they're in a lot of those same games. A lot of single possession losses, but I don't see them really making huge strides where they're competing for a wild card position.
Yeah, they made, like I said earlier, in the rundown, they had a lot of offseason signings that like should bring some hope if you're a Titans fan. It's funny because like you look at their wide receiver room and they have like 3 good receivers. Is that crazy to say? Because they signed Wandale, obviously they drafted Colonel Tate, excuse me, and then Calvin Ridley. He's just kind of there, and he's like 31 or 32, but he's still like a somewhat productive receiver at this point. And the running back room, like Braden mentioned, has depth with Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, the rookie Nick Singleton, and Michael Carter, who I believe was on the Jets prior to the Titans. I believe so.
Was he not on the Cardinals?
Oh, was he on the Jets before the Cardinals? Is that what
He
I'm
was,
thinking?
yeah.
Okay, so I misinterpreted my order, but yeah, we'll see. It's gonna come down for me to like the trench play, like offensive line and defensive line. They've invested some resources into the offensive line. Last year or 2 years ago, I believe they spent a top 10 pick on J.C. Latham. Last year obviously was Cam Ward. A few years prior, they spent a top 15 pick on Peter Skoronski, the guard from Northwestern. They gave Dan Moore an $80 million contract to be that left tackle. So it's not like they haven't invested in that offensive line. And defensively, like I said, they signed John Franklin Myers from Denver. They traded for Jermaine Johnson. They brought Solomon Thomas to Tennessee, which if you're big Bob Saleh, gotta love that, former 49er. They drafted Keldrick Falk in the second round in this most recent draft. So like, I think defensive line wise, they're in a better spot than their offensive line personally. And obviously Jeffrey Simmons, monster. He's one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. But I'm expecting a pretty big jump for Cam Ward from year 1 to year 2. Year 1, I mean, he started all 17 games for him, threw for about 3,100 yards, almost 3,200, 15 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. The key stat for him, though, is he was sacked 55 times, which is a lot, and that's going to be the make or break for the Titans offense this year. So we'll see if that offensive line can improve anymore. And if that's the case, I think this Tennessee team could be potentially frisky. I think, I don't want to spoil it, but we're in the works on a new segment for this fall, sponsored by the Carolina Panthers, of the Friskometer. The Titans might have an appearance on the Friskometer when the season starts up in a couple weeks.
This is a season where, sorry.
No, you go.
This is a season where Cam Ward could have an unbelievable year statistically, but they don't win a lot of games. And so people, when looking back at the end of this year, don't take the Titans record as a huge weight on whether or not this was a good season or not. Because I think the most important part is whether or not Cam Ward takes that next step. Because I know you mentioned, sorry, I had my glasses up for a second. Keldrick Falk from Auburn being drafted here. They also followed that up by getting a linebacker from Texas in the second round and Anthony Hill Jr. So you got Robert Saleh with two young guys that are just looking for an opportunity to build on the defensive end this year. And if they can show strides and potential that they potentially could be a good pairing on defense, or at least the defense is showing some promise, and Cam Ward can take another step forward, this could be a sleeping giant in this division over the next year or so.
Yeah, I think this division, we'll get to it and we'll go through it at length this episode. But this division, I think we all feel is wide open. There's not a team that stands out that they're going to stink, and there's not a team that stands out that they're going to win the division. Personally, we'll get your guys' thoughts on that.
There's a wide range of floor and ceilings for these guys.
A lot of variance.
I could see a world where somehow any team could win this division because it's just a dump. It's two teams should be the top, but do I have trust that they will? Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. Year one of Robert Saleh at the helm. Like we touched on, I think, one of the other episodes that we recorded. We kind of all have the same feeling that sometimes hiring a defensive-minded head coach doesn't always really work out well, especially if you're trying to develop younger quarterbacks. But if Robert Saleh can improve that defense from what it was last year, they had the 28th ranked defense in points against. They gave up 28 points per game, which you're not going to win very many games this year. Credit. That's why they only won 3 games last year. So I am expecting a pretty big jump from Cam Ward. I think a lot of things went wrong from last year. He was a rookie quarterback. They didn't really have the right pieces around him. To now, they're giving him a chance. They signed Wandale. They drafted Carnell Tate. I'm expecting big things for Tennessee this season, so I'm getting excited for that. What are you guys' realistic floor, ceiling, and realistic record that you guys have for the Tennessee Titans in the year 2026?
My floor, the offense is much improved, and Bob Saleh knows how to get the defense running, but this roster still is not, good, really, by any stretch of the imagination. It's not going to go as bad as it did last year. I have their floor at 4-13, so still an improvement on last year, but still not exactly, making a ton of noise. Ceiling? If things start clicking, Cam Ward takes it as big of a jump as I think he can. 8-9, maybe 9-8, but probably realistically more 8-9. Realistic record, I would put probably somewhere in the middle, around 6-11.
Yeah.
Rock?
I've changed. This is one of the teams I've changed multiple times. 3 wins if everything falls apart this year. Cam Ward takes a step back and things just don't click for the floor. Ceiling 7 wins, maybe. I got them winning about. I'll go 5. I'll go 5 wins for them this year. Again, don't let the record of the team reflect how good this season may be for the Titans.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all with that statement. Things they have going for them. They have the 8th easiest schedule in the league next year. So they're not going to be playing the cream of the crop when it comes to the NFL. They're just not. They're going to have several tough games, but they're going to have games that they could easily win. Another plus. It's a young team that theoretically should improve. Theoretically, head coach play should be better. Was it Brian Callahan that got canned early into the season last year? I think he was the first coach that be fired last year. So you should think you should get an upgrade at the head coaching spot. The downside is you're putting a lot of your eggs in the basket that Cam Ward is going to be that guy. And while I'm not saying he can't be that guy, I still need to see Cam Ward play like meaningful football, because their 3 wins last year were against the Cardinals, Chiefs, and Browns. And the Chiefs game, the Chiefs had given up. The Browns was the game that wasn't it the goofy 2-point conversion play where Judkins was trying to pass it to tie the game or something like that. I think Braden, am I somewhat on the right track there? Wasn't that the game Shador had an unbelievable one, but they just
I think so.
goofed
Yeah.
at the end? And I won't talk about the other team because I'm not trying to bully Brock right now. But it's going to come down to that defense for me. They got to improve the points against, and I think Robert Saleh is going to help quite a bit. I'm going to set a floor. Before I set a floor, their over-under win total is 6.5. So probably the public's slightly higher viewing-wise on the Titans than maybe we are. But I'll set a floor at 4-13. That's like everything turns south and Saleh is on the hot seat by the end of the year, which I don't really see happening. I'm going to set a ceiling at 8 wins. I think this team's got some variance. I don't think they're going to compete for a playoff spot just because I think it's too soon for that, realistically. But again, this division, it shouldn't be wide open, but it feels wide open, if that makes sense. Like it feels like Brock said, there's 2 definitive like teams that are above, and then the other 2 that are just kind of in the murky waters. But like this team, you never know. This is the roller coaster division. So I'm gonna set a realistic record at 6-11 for the Tennessee Titans. You guys have anything else to add on them before we get into the next team? Alrighty. The team that finished 3rd in the AFC South last year was the Indianapolis Colts. The moves they made in the offseason, they re-signed Daniel Jones, re-signed Alec Pierce, signed Arden Key out of free agency. And then in their draft, they didn't have a first-round pick this year, but they selected linebacker C.J. Allen and then safety A.J. Halsey from LSU. This team is going to be known as the team that was 8-1 or 8-2 and then didn't win another game the entire season. I think we were talking about, was it before we were recording or no? It was during the AFC East preview that Sauce Gardner only won 1 game last year because they won 1 game for the Jets, and then when he got traded to the Colts, they didn't win another one. So that's what the main talking point about this team is going to be. This team started off really good. Daniel Jones was playing the best ball of his career, and he ends up getting hurt late in November, and then the team just kind of falls apart and signs a 45-year-old man to play quarterback for them for like 3 games. So that was cool. But my question for you guys on the Indianapolis Colts, how will the Colts bounce back from the end of last season?
I think they'll have a decent year. I mean, it really. I mean, you were rocking Phillip Rivers as your quarterback to end the season, with Daniel Jones being out for the year and Anthony Richardson deciding that he just didn't want to do whatever was going on there. Like it really feels like 8-9, considering how they started, was the worst possible case scenario, and everything kind of just started to dogpile on them because they didn't have a quarterback. Like they were able to key in on the run. Any sort of pressure on the quarterback was just not happening. Defense can only do so much when the offense is putting up like not that great of stats. Like it I don't think there's a way that the second half of the season Colts is what we see for a full season this year. I really just can't see that happening.
I don't know if they do bounce back. I have seen this before. I have went through this before personally as a football fan of the amazing start, terrible finish, and what that does to a franchise. I know that they didn't have a quarterback, so that's a big reason for that. But also, look at the teams who they did play early on in that schedule last year. Miami, meh. Tennessee, meh. Denver, okay, I get that, but you won by 1. Vegas, meh. Cardinals, meh. So you played 2 teams that made the playoffs that year in your first 10 games. or you beat 2 playoff teams in your first 10 games. Dawson, you're muted.
You remember the Denver game? The only reason they won that game was a leverage call because the guy jumped over the long snapper on the game-winning field goal, and they got another chance at it and made it the second time. So they could have lost that game too and had one win over a playoff team for the first 10 weeks. But
And then after that, you played nothing but playoff teams, and you struggled.
hey, they played Kansas City, and Kansas City wasn't a playoff team.
I guess, yeah. You're playing what you played teams that are competing year after year for a playoff spot currently.
And at the time, Kansas City thought they were going to be in the playoffs until they didn't. So, but yeah.
So, I actually think that they take even another step back this season with how their schedule pans out. Right now, I have them starting 0-3 because you play Baltimore at home. I still don't think you win that. At Kansas City versus Houston at home. Depending on how Houston is this year, I wishful thinking feel like they're going to be a little better than they were last year. If they don't, then we have bigger issues in Houston. But yeah, you follow that up with 3 winnable games with Washington, at Pittsburgh, and Tennessee. But then you go back on the road in 2 underrated home environments with Minnesota and Jacksonville. So, and that's just, kind of the first half of their schedule. I think that they're going to take a step back this year. I am not necessarily a big believer in Daniel Jones. I don't know. I don't think 8-9 is where they're going to be at this year.
Some of the things the Colts have going for them for this season, they have the 5th easiest schedule in the NFL. Like, they have another light year for the schedule. They're gonna have a full off season to integrate Sauce Gardner in the blockbuster trade they made in the middle of last year. They re-signed Alec Pierce. They re-signed Daniel Jones. Here's the thing that scares me though. I think it was only a week ago, which is still pretty remarkable given the fact that he tore his Achilles. But Daniel Jones is just now getting cleared for practice. They seem pretty confident he's going to be available early in the season. I don't know. I don't think he's going to be 100% healthy. That Achilles injury takes... You can come back in 10 to 11 months, but realistically to play good football, that's a 12, 13, 14, maybe 16 to 18 month recovery time to get back to 100 and something percent. So that worries me. And then it kind of felt like a lot of things went right for the Colts to start the year last year. Like you said, they won that game against Denver off a leverage call. They won several games against teams that didn't really do anything in the regular season. And then as soon as they started to play teams of their caliber, I guess, they started to lose games and had that downward slide. But it just worries me about the quarterback situation because if it's not Daniel Jones starting, is it Richardson? I mean, I think Richardson or is it Riley Leonard would be the default backup right now.
This team is so fun. I've seen I don't know if you guys have ever seen the TikToks of what if the NBA season was like the WWE where they don't say anything and week 1, the opening night, you just see who the starting lineup is and it shocks you. Like imagine LeBron right now showed up opening night with the Sixers and no one knew about it. That's what it feels like with the Colts on a week-to-week basis over the last 5 years. You had Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, Anthony Richardson, Riley Leonard, Phillip Rivers again, Daniel Jones. What was his name? Did Sam Ellinger, has he started a game with them? I swear he's played at least a game with them.
Maybe several years ago, but
they've went through quarterbacks they can, I swear they just point at someone there I want him as quarterback this week, and they just kind of roll with it. Granted, injuries don't help, and that's been a historic thing for them over the last decade, not even just the last 5 years about their quarterback play. But yeah, it's almost like Well, we'll see who comes out of the tunnel and goes under center for the first play of the offense for them. Achilles injuries, man, don't rush back from those. I was nervous about being a Celtics fan and seeing Tatum come back so early, and seemed like everything went all right, but like you can't guarantee that that's going to be a thing, especially in a league where you are playing on turf that loves to stick. It is turf made. Sorry, it's turf that's made to injure people, whether people want to admit it or not.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? I guess did we ask the floor, ceiling, and realistic expectations for the Colts? I don't think we've covered that yet.
No.
But realistic floor, ceiling, and gut reaction record pick right now.
I'm going to tell you guys right now, I think I'm a lot higher on this Colts team than you guys are. I don't necessarily know why. I just kind of have I just have a feeling they're going to figure it out. Especially now that I'm realizing, wait, Daniel Jones isn't going to be back till like 100% to start. But then again, I mean, you look at the schedule. Does it really matter who's starting at quarterback for the first 2-3 weeks? They probably don't win those games anyways. But I don't know. I will say floor is the same as it was last year at 8-9. That's what I have it as. Ceiling, I think these guys are really given a shot to win this conference or this division. I have it at 12-5 because it's really not that hard of a schedule. Yeah, it starts pretty rough with Baltimore, KC, Houston, but like after that, I mean, who knows how the Minnesota's QB room is going to be? Jacksonville lost a lot of talent. I feel like they're going to regress a lot. Philadelphia, yeah, that's going to be a rough one. And then Cincinnati are probably going to be fighting for a playoff spot. But otherwise, I don't really see a ton of games that are like, ooh, that is going to be a hard one to win for them. I feel like they're going to do better than you guys think they will. I have realistically probably about 10-7.
Wow. Brock? Block?
Bach.
Bach? Spock?
Floor. This might be out there. 5 wins.
No, you about said 4.
I have 4. I'll stick on 4.
Wow. Before you continue, is this the first team in doing these previews that we all have like drastically different opinions and views on? I feel like
Probably.
every single team we've previewed up until this point, we've kind of had the same range somewhat. And if Braden's thing is they're going to go 10-7, and Brock, you think they could go 4-13. I'm curious what their ceiling's going to be.
That's floor.
I'm curious what their ceiling for you is going to be.
That's like they're calling Drew Brees to go play quarterback a couple weeks because they have nothing left.
What's Derek Carr
I'm
doing?
willing to be wrong, but I don't see it.
Ceiling if everything clicks is 10 for me. I could see a world where everything clicks for them and they just pick up where they were in the beginning of last year, and they get that 10 wins competing for a division championship. I'm just going to go with what I have written down. I go back and forth between this number and a couple of like right around the same area. 6 wins.
Wow.
I don't know. For some reason, I just don't have a good feeling about this team.
The question is how much time, if any time, does Daniel Jones miss? And when he eventually comes back, what percentage of Daniel Jones are we getting from last year? Is my question. Are we getting 85% of what Daniel Jones played like last year? Are we getting 80%? Are we getting 90%? That will be the key. I'm gonna bring this up too when we talk Kansas City eventually, because like they're in the same boat of their quarterback is hurt, and they don't really know. Like, they say he's going to start week 1, but I'm still skeptical on how well they're actually going to play. But the first few weeks are a huge indicator. They're going to lose those first 3 games. I'll tell you that right now. That's just a gut reaction. Home Baltimore, at Kansas City, home Houston. They might win that Houston game, but I feel like it wouldn't shock anyone if Indianapolis is 0-3 to start, correct? Can we make that assumption?
Yeah.
From there on out, though, they play Washington. I don't really know what to think of Washington right now. I don't know if we're getting Washington from 2 years ago or last year. So, verdict's still out on them. Pittsburgh, none of us are high on Pittsburgh. Tennessee, we just talked about Tennessee earlier. There could be a fun team, but will they actually start winning meaningful games? Maybe. Minnesota, they have the offensive firepower. Defensively, I don't know. Like, there are winnable games in the middle part of that schedule that could bolster their record. So I'm going to say floor at 6-11. I'm going to set their ceiling at 9-8. I don't want to go quite as far as Braden and say they're going to be 10-7. But I think they're going to be 8-9, 9-8, potentially week 17 or 18, be in the playoff hunt. And who knows? They could sneak in. But I'll change it. I'll say my floor is 6-11. The ceiling is 10-7. And I think they'll go 9-8 is my prediction. Just because I need to see how Jones comes back. And if they can win the middle part of their schedule, which is kind of the easier slate of games, then I think they could set themselves up later in the season pretty well. But that is my prediction of the Indianapolis Colts. The over-under win total for them this season is 7.5. So do with that information what you will. But any other thoughts on the Indianapolis Colts before we move into the third place team in the AFC, or the second place team, excuse me? The third team that we're going to talk about, I should say.
CJ Allen's going to be a dog.
He is. All right. The third team we're going to be talking about in the AFC South, the team that finished second last year, is the Houston Texans. They made several moves this offseason, including trading for Detroit Lion long-timer David Montgomery, signing Reed Blankenship from the Philadelphia Eagles, re-signing Will Anderson to a massive 3-year, $150 million deal, re-signing Galen Hunter for a 1-year deal worth $40 million, and then with their first-round selection, they did take Keelan Rutledge, the guard / center, we're going to call it, from Georgia Tech, because Braden, you said that he was going to potentially play center for him. Does that sound correct?
Currently, ESPN has him as their starting center.
Okay. So, we'll call it interior offensive line right now. But yep, some of the other moves they made, they signed Wyatt Teller from the Cleveland Browns. They signed Braden Smith from the Indianapolis Colts. They re-signed Trent Brown on that offensive line, as well as giving Azeez Al-Shire a 3-year, $54 million extension, along with many other deals. Guys, this team went 12-5 last year, despite their poor offensive play throughout the year and including the playoffs. My question for you guys is, can the offense help the defense win games in 2026?
I don't know, man. The offensive line did get a little bit better, bringing in Wyatt Teller, like you said, Keelan Rutledge, and Braden Smith. I don't know. I don't really have a... They brought in Dave Montgomery, shout out Cyclone Legend. I don't have a lot of faith in that running game, really. And when you have a quarterback who I feel like it just has the spooks right now, he's just not feeling good. You need to be able to have a strong, consistent running game to be able to lean on. And I don't know if David Montgomery and Woody Marks is going to really do it for me. Granted, this defense is flat out insane looking at it. But, like, yeah, I really, I don't know.
Yeah, if the offensive line is good this year, I think it actually comes more down on whether or not CJ Stroud is going to be that quarterback that Houston thought he was going to be when they drafted him. because I do think that the wide receivers are there. They also drafted Marlon, I think is Kellen is his name, from Michigan at the tight end position um, in the second round. Um, Also, they signed Caden McDonald, a defensive tackle from, I think, Ohio State. So they already boosted up the defense even more with another young asset. Um, but I think the offense is there. I just whether or not CJ Stroud is going to really prove that he deserves to be a franchise quarterback. I don't really know if Texans fans are calling him a franchise quarterback. I think the organization obviously wants him to be. So it's kind of on his shoulders this year. I think this is going to be a really huge year for him and the franchise as a whole, because if he plays even half as bad as what he did against New England, and there was tons of things going on with weather and everything that may have added to it, but like if he plays like that this year, like it's going to be an interesting offseason for them, because a lot of their young assets are starting to get towards their contract years, and you're going to have to make decisions on whether or not you want to pay them, whatever it may be. But yeah, I think CJ Stroud can do it, though. I have confidence in this team. I think that they're going to be able to compete again for a division championship. I don't know how much I think that their record's going to improve, but I do think that they have the ability to take that stride and make the jump towards probably being where I think people thought they would be towards the end of last year. Because the playoff run for them was very disappointing in terms of the ending and everything. And I think it left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, to the point where like it's a bigger deal than it probably should be. But I don't know. Maybe it should be as big of a deal as some people have made it out to be.
Yeah, I don't know how to interpret CJ Stroud. I really don't, because I am old enough to remember when me and Brock first started doing an NFL podcast. When CJ Stroud was a rookie, neither one of us were very high on the Texans. I think we both had them probably finishing towards the bottom of the AFC, and
Yeah.
they ended up making the playoffs, and we were both proven wrong. And then it's like, oh, he's gonna build off that and have a even better. He's one of the better young quarterbacks in the NFL. Um, the following year, it's like, okay, he took a step back, but they're still a playoff team, so that's fine. They beat, was it Cleveland? No. They beat someone and then lost to Kansas City in 2024. And then 2025, he had, what's weird is he had the best completion percentage of his career, the best QBR of his career, but had the lowest yards per game of his career, the lowest yards per completion of his career, but got sacked a few. So, like, I don't know if it's, like, what the deal is, if it's just play calling, if it's him just getting the yips in some games. So, I don't really know where he's going to, like, fall in the hierarchy of quarterbacks this year. Because, like, on paper, the guy has enough talent to potentially be a top 10 quarterback. I mean, he's shown flashes in his rookie year and second year of being a top 5 quarterback. He, like, flirting with that idea. I don't think he's there anymore. But who's to say he couldn't get back to that level? The kid is only 25 years old, so he still has time to get there. But that's going to be the key for Houston, because Braden mentioned it, Brock mentioned it. The defense is lights out. The defensive line, the secondary, the linebacker room is unreal. And D'Amico Ryans has a hell of a squad on that side of the ball. And if it comes down to, again, where the defense is forcing turnovers and the offense is giving up turnovers, then we could, I don't know if we want to say that the Texans could be out on CJ Stroud, but you at least have to entertain the idea of potentially finding someone else to play quarterback. But in the end, I think CJ Stroud's going to bounce back from this year. If he can get rid of those yips that he had against New England and even Pittsburgh, frankly, because he didn't play great in that Pittsburgh game either. But what are your guys' floor, ceiling, and realistic record predictions for the Houston Texans in the year 2026?
Yeah, this is just a weird team to kind of just put a pin, like, yeah, this is where they're going to be. I feel like floor, if the offense just like really can't get it going, CJ Stroud looks like the guy we saw in the playoffs and not who we saw the first couple years of his career. I feel like 7-10 is a floor here. Like,
Same here.
This schedule is not exactly easy looking at it. Ceiling, same as they did last year at 12-5. Because, yeah, I mean, it feels like a pretty big window, but like it really just kind of depends. Like, do we see an offense that can actually play offense, or do we see an offense that could not move the ball to save their lives?
God.
And realistic record, I'll put it at like 10-7.
You literally just copied exactly what I was going to say. 7 the low, 12 the high, 10 is where I expect it.
Yeah, fair enough. Their win total over under for this upcoming season is 9.5. So
I thought I was being crazy here and super dissing the Texans. No, this is just the this is what everybody
They have a
thinks.
tough
Okay.
schedule.
yeah, they have I had the schedules pulled up in front of me. Where they at? Oh, I guess by the records they have the 7th easiest schedule, but I'd have to really take an in-depth dive on their schedule.
I mean, versus Buffalo, versus Cleveland to start not Cleveland, Cincinnati to start. Both of those are home games. But like at Indianapolis versus Dallas.
Man, the
at
road
Tennessee
games are
versus
brutal at the end
Jacksonville.
of the year.
Yeah.
At Washington, yeah, that's a tough one.
At Jacksonville, at Green Bay,
Yeah.
those are rough games
They're-
to end your season on.
For a team that is based in Texas, they are in the north half of the country four
lot.
times in December.
Yeah.
And Green Bay in January. Like,
Oh, yes. Sorry. Green Bay's in January. So 3 times in December, Green Bay in January. I forget that we're in January now for the regular season.
Yeah. Gross. But so Brock, you're spot for spot with Braden on record predictions
Yep.
for that Texans. Okay. This team doesn't really have much wiggle room because unless their defense takes a huge step back, which I don't really foresee, like their floor for me is like 8-9. And that's like if CJ Stroud still has the yips and their defense still manages to win them a bunch of games. Ceiling, I'll go 11-6. I still think this is like a 10-7 ball club that's could sneak in. And I've said that about a lot of teams that we've done recaps for already. But it kind of just feels like the AFC doesn't really have a juggernaut right now. There's not a team, no doubt, that's like, hey, that's the 1 seed. That's the division winner. Kind of feels like every division has an argument of who could win it, because we've discussed the AFC East. Buffalo or New England could win that one. The AFC North, Cincinnati or I almost said Cleveland. Cincinnati or Baltimore could win that one. This one,
things have happened.
crazy things have happened. But it just feels like the AFC is in stark contrast to the NFC. It feels like the NFC, there's like 4 good teams and then meh after that. So the AFC's really deep, but there's not the juggernaut. So I just feel like Houston kind of just meanders at that 10-7 number. And like they have the last 3 years, I could see them winning a playoff game and then losing the next one. So right now, I'll stick with 10-7, but that is due to change. Obviously, I don't know if I've mentioned this. We were recording in July. So if you made it to this part, thank you. But all these predictions that we were making, we were trying our best to look ahead in the future, even though
It's
we were
like
5
drafting
weeks
fantasy
away.
players in August.
Yeah, you just can't do it. I like doing it in like the end of August, but even then, I've gotten screwed a couple times where someone gets hurt in preseason, and then you're just mad. So, but anything else on the Houston Texans side of things before we go into the last team that won the division last year?
Shout out the Iowa State Texans, dude. They have
Yeah.
Iowa State players kind of just move in hives. Like other than Brock on the Niners. Like it's always like groups. Like you have the Jets with Will McDonald, Brees Hall, Kane Nwangwu. You have the Texans with Dave Montgomery, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Knoll. Like it's always just like clumps of Cyclones. None of them are really just like floating in the abyss by themselves, other than Brock Purdy.
Hey,
Don't
maybe
forget about Tyler Moore at New York
Is he on the Giants or the Jets?
Giants. I think he just signed with them.
And Jalen Travis is on the Colts, I guess. So
Charlie.
I think he's their starting right
Moore.
tackle right now.
Yep.
I lost my train of thought. Oh, if CJ Stroud takes a step back, maybe the Texans call up San Fran and be like, "Hey, Brock, now." Just saying. Then you could really form the Houston Cyclones.
You know what? If of any team that I would lose Brock Purdy to, you know what, man?
With D'Amico Ryans too, who is familiar with Purdy.
You know,
It would be funny.
I sat through it, which again, looking back at the trade, it was a better trade for the Cardinals. But like, I sat through the DeAndre Hopkins, David Johnson trade. There was ever a trade that actually would make me 1,000% bandwagon from one team to another, it would be Brock Purdy getting traded to Houston. I would, and it wouldn't even be hard. I would 1,000% just drop everything and do it.
Listen, CJ Stroud and 2 first-round picks. We can talk.
Well, you wouldn't even need Stroud. You have McCorkle Jones on your roster.
Yeah,
but he's on the
San
last year of his
Francisco
deal.
would be like, just keep him.
Keep CJ. We got Mac. That's our
3-team
They got
trade.
KD,
They just
we got
send him
Jaden
to Arizona
Daniels.
to die.
They just send him to the Jets.
Oh, man.
So, all right. To wrap up our thoughts on the Texans, then we are going to be moving forward to the team that won the division last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Ball.
Perfect timing, Brock. Thank you.
Ball.
Gotta love the Liam Cohen soundbite. But Jacksonville is an interesting team to say the least because additions, they didn't really sign a whole lot of guys, and they're just kind of a tough team to gauge free agency wise. Like my one free agency signing they had was Chris Rodriguez. I guess they have like Amir Abdul on the roster, which I just found out as I have this open. Yeah, so shout out Nebraska legend Amir Abdullah, who's found his way in another NFL team, which is crazy.
Great replacement for
years in.
Travis Etienne.
Yeah, no kidding. Didn't really do a whole lot in free agency. Re-signed a lot of their guys. Even signed Trayvon Walker, the former number 1 overall pick, to a 4-year, $110 million contract. The other notable move, they re-signed their long snapper. So shout out to Ross Matt Tizik. Matt Tizik, something like that.
I'm not familiar with my long snappers.
I'm not either, but you know what? We don't talk too many long snappers on here. I figured I'd give him a shout out. So, but yeah, re-signed Monteric Brown on a 3-year, $33 million contract, and then re-signed linebacker. Is it Devon? Gardeck? Dennis Gardeck on a 2-year, $6.5 million deal. Their draft was super confusing. They took a blocking tight end in round 2, which was odd to say the least. And then one of their picks that I do find interesting for them is Emmanuel Pergon, the guard from Oregon. I'm sure I butchered that, but I apologize. Guys, this team went 13-4, won the division last year. And the question I have for you guys is, will the Jaguars build off of their momentum from last year?
No.
No.
No. I'm just gonna say this now. No. Losing Travis Etienne when they finally got up and running. Bashal Tutin's a fine back. Bashal Tutin is a Robin. At best. He is not a main back. Unless you're gonna try and sit here and tell me that Amir Abdullah is the Batman. I don't see many Batmen in this running back room. Receiver
This
room, who knows what Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be? Jacoby Myers had something. Parker Washington looks like he could be something. Who knows what position Travis Hunter even plays anymore? Offensive line wasn't really great last year. Did get Emmanuel Pregnon, but I mean, brought Patrick McCarry from the Ravens, which if you're poaching Ravens offensive linemen, that's like maybe a step up from the Chargers, but not like much. Defensively, also losing Devin Lloyd is going to suck a lot. Like, shout out Foya Sadaluikin, but like, yeah, there's. I mean, Josh Hyams Allen is really good. If Travis Hunter plays corner, he could be good. Jordan Lewis kind of had some moments there. Trayvon Walker and Eric Armstead, like they have decent guys, but I don't know if they're going to be able to really pull it together to recoup the amount of losses that they had on offense.
This division went from 3 teams teasing with the idea of being future, like, not necessarily contenders, but future teams that are competing for a playoff spot every year too. Well, are they mid again? And I feel like Jacksonville is on that side of, are they mid again? And I think that they are, unfortunately. Losing Travis is not great. You don't have a good running back replacement in terms of who can be that number one guy, like Braden mentioned. Travis Hunter, we'll see what happens. I don't know. He's might be the biggest question mark on that team this year, just because I don't really know what to expect from him. I don't even know if they know what they expect from him. Yeah, and whether or not Trevor Lawrence stays where he's at, maybe progresses a little more or starts regressing. I don't know. He's been one of the more interesting quarterbacks where, like, I think the first year we started, Dawson and I had him as a sleeper MVP pick, and I wouldn't even touch that with a 10-foot pole anymore.
You're drinking that Nick Wright Kool-Aid.
Prince? The Prince that was promised? Is that what you're talking about?
Also, if I called, I don't know if I called him ETN or not, is Travis Achan now. So that's my
No.
Oh, it is?
Incorrect.
Yeah, it's Achan. Because he's from Louisiana.
Oh,
Go Tigers.
okay. Interesting.
Shout out, Coach. Shout out, Coach O. Go Tigers. So.
Go Tigers.
Who is, funny enough, back with LSU. So that's...
Yeah, he's like an
that's
analyst
always
now or
something. Yeah. So...
That university is this generation's the U. There's just crazy.
The
I
U,
hate that. I
but
hate LSU.
no championships outside of the Joe Burrow team. outside
They're
of
trying to be the U.
Yeah, outside of the greatest college football team of all time, nah, they just don't do anything.
I think there
That's
might be a Miami team that would be able to
The
defeat
0-1
that.
Miami team is an argument, for sure. And maybe the college football guys can do a tier list of greatest teams of all time, because I'd be really curious to say on their opinion on that. But, hey, that's just mine.
Oh, Trevor. Yeah, I think they take a step back this year. I think it might be a bigger step than they may expect.
Okay. It's funny, you look on his Football Reference page, and the only nickname is the Prince that was promised. That is the only one listed. So, shout out
Not
Nick Wright.
Sunshine?
Nope. The only one is the Prince that was promised. And did you know Trevor Lawrence's first name is not even Trevor? I just found this out.
It's Robert.
William. It's
Oh.
William.
Is it William Trevor Lawrence?
Yep.
William
Sir
Lawrence
William
is
Trevor
the name
Lawrence.
of like the 12th president of the United States. Or like the 22nd, one of those.
And
that, like,
and
nobody
the
remembers.
nickname that he had is what?
The prince who was promised.
That fits perfectly. Sir William
It does.
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start calling him Billy.
Billy Lawrence.
Billy Lawrence. That's a country artist if I've ever heard. Now, welcome to the stage, Billy Lawrence.
Yeah.
You know that song definitely starts with a harmonica.
There's a banjo in there somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Anywho, I don't like any of the moves they made in the offseason, which sucks because I am always super high on this team because I do think Trevor Lawrence is a really good quarterback. And last year was the first year since year 2 for him that he was able to like play well for an entire season, for that matter. Last year, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 4,000 yards. Most touchdowns in his career, and I guess the third fewest interceptions, but did have the where's his QBR? Did have the best QBR of his career. Did get sacked 41 times though, which is the most in his career by 6. And the year he got sacked, and that was, he played one less game. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how the offensive line is going to play. I'm curious to see who the bell cow back is going to be. See, right now would be an awesome time to have Tank Bigsby just there. But they're like, nope, we don't want him anymore. He can go to Philly. And is he still on Philly?
They did that for a couple players.
Yeah.
It's questionable moves.
Yeah. But I just... And then the Travis Hunter piece, I feel like we could do an entire episode on that. I think they've said they're going to move him to a full-time corner and then kind of have him at receiver, which is what they probably should have done all along. But even then, I just don't think you're going to get high-level play on either side of the ball from Travis. You'll get, like, good cornerback play and maybe a cool wide receiver moment every once in a while. But I feel like that's just asking too much of someone, and you could potentially jeopardize his career going forward at such a young age. And Braden mentioned it, the Brian Thomas Jr. factor of him being unbelievable in his rookie year to him, like, not even being, like, a focal point, really, in the offense. So, shout out to anyone that drafted him in fantasy last year. I'm sorry for you, because he laid a big old goose egg.
I'm sure that fantasy punishment sucked.
Yeah, that was not fun, probably. But, no, it's always going to come down to Trevor Lawrence. He's entering year 6, which is crazy to believe, because it doesn't feel like that long ago he was at Clemson. But I'm curious who that bell cow running back's going to be. Because is it going to be Bashan Tootin? Is it going to be like Amir Abdullah? They have DJ Dallas on that roster too. Chris Rodriguez. Like, I don't know. Could they be in the market to trade for a guy? Maybe not. I don't know. They kind of already let their franchise running back go to New Orleans. And Travis A-Chain, I guess. But, all right. Realistic floor, ceiling, and gut reaction record prediction for the Jacksonville Jaguars in the year 2026.
Floor? Man, this schedule is not fun. Floor 5-12. I really think things could fall apart for this team. And the cat seems to agree. She's back.
Yeah.
Ceiling?
She's not a Jaguars fan.
No.
Panthers only.
Mm-hmm.
Ceiling, I'm going to put at 9-8. I mean, maybe they can put together a winning record, but I know,
No,
man.
Cat
They
disagrees.
suck.
Cat
I'm
disagrees.
sorry. But I don't know. 9-8 feels like where I'd put a ceiling. I expect them to be probably... I have them at third in this division. Probably, I don't know, 8 wins, realistically.
Floor 5-6, ceiling 10. I have them winning. I had listed as 9. I'm going to go 8.
8-9 then, for the record.
Yeah, 8-9.
They had the 11th easiest schedule in the league, so somewhat towards the middle of the pack. Their average opponent winning percentage for this season is 49%, so around 500 almost. Their over-under win total for this year is 8.5, which seems low because this team just won 13 games, but the more you think about it, it seems about right. I would set their floor for me at 7-10. I'll give their ceiling the flip side of that. I'll give it 10-7, but gut reaction, 8-9 just feels like the scenario for this team. It's kind of the same thing for me with the Patriots. Is the record and how they maybe it's different than New England because Jacksonville got bounced in round 1, whereas New England made a deep push. But sometimes you think you're closer than what you actually are, and that leads you to do things and believe in things that might not necessarily be true. I don't think Jacksonville is one of those upper echelon AFC teams. I just think that they're a middle of the road team, and I think they're due for a lot of regression, and I don't think they're going to match or even get close to that 13 win mark. So I'm going to think their record is 8-9 for the upcoming NFL season. Guys, do you have anything else to add on the Jacksonville Jaguars before we wrap up this episode recapping the AFC South? Does Kat have anything to say?
Guess not.
No?
She's a little camera shy. She likes to yell from the peanut gallery, but as soon as the pressure gets on,
the lights were brighter than expected. So, well, in that sense, we are going to be wrapping up this episode of the Between the Hashes podcast here on the 515 Podcast Network. We'll have more episodes for divisions posted. Every single team is going to have their own clip out on the YouTube page at some point. So if you want shorter and condensed versions of the full podcast, be sure to head over to our YouTube. And if you have a specific team that you're curious to see our thoughts and opinions on, you can go there, and we should have that up and ready to roll. But for Braden Bank and Brock Bierman and myself, Dawson Livingston, we are signing off here on the Between the Ashes podcast.